man who knows a thing or two about the New York fight scene, will be our first guest of the day in studio. He is a Hall of Fame inductee for the International Boxing Hall of Fame back in 2020, International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame inductee in 2024, former HBO Sports head of programming, the creator of Boxing After Dark. And in addition to those ventures, he is the owner of the minor league baseball team, the Richmond Flying Squirrels, whose new season kicks off in about 30 days' time. They're actually building a brand new ballpark over there, the CarMax Park. It's under construction right now. He's the legendary Lou DiBella, who's going to tell it to us like it is about everything going on in the wild and wacky world of boxing. Here he comes, the man himself, Mr. Lou DiBella. How are you, sir?
I'm really good to see you, bro.
I like this. I like this. You came with notes.
I just was jotting some stuff.
I appreciate it. Make yourself comfortable.
I'm going to take this off. Yeah.
Welcome. Do you want to hang it up somewhere?
Yeah, back in my chair somewhere.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right, bro.
Yeah?
I mean, running 2 AA baseball teams, building a stadium in Richmond. Opening day's a couple of weeks away. Really busy.
The Flying Squirrels.
Yeah. I started my process. I sort of saw a lot of what was happening right now coming.
Yeah.
And my process of allocating my time differently began a few years ago. So right now, I mean, I'm pretty much heavily invested in baseball.
But you still, I mean, DiBella Entertainment is still around?
I still exist, yeah.
Kambosos fighting?
But I mean, yeah, Kambosos is fighting, but let's face realities. Most promoters as we know them are going away. And, you know, I mean, at some point I'll make the transition. I'll advise people if I feel like it. You know, it's interesting because we'll get into our conversation. This will organically come out.
No, I mean, we're in it.
But it's interesting to watch the big boys now get relegated to what they made everybody else, which were middlemen. And right now, make no mistake about it, the major promoters have been middlemen for the last couple of years. Because let me ask you a question. You're the interviewer, but I want to ask you the question.
Yeah, please, please.
Who's been the most major promoter in boxing over the last couple of years?
I think Eddie Hearn is the best.
Who has been the most powerful promoter in boxing?
Oh, I mean, Turkey.
Correct.
Yeah.
Stop. That's it.
But okay, so I thought maybe it was a trick question.
No, it's not a trick. No, that's the point.
Well, technically, he's not a promoter, right?
Oh, no, he's a promoter, bro.
Okay. He doesn't have a promoter's license.
Who gives a fuck about a promoter's license? Stop with promoter's licenses.
Okay.
Stop. Who gives a fuck?
Well,
right?
old school would say.
No, I don't give a shit about old school. Old school's gone.
Okay.
Okay.
So how do you feel about all this?
I don't give a shit.
You don't give a shit.
I think it's interesting.
You're very passionate about it. You tweet about it.
I tweet about it. It was inevitable. And Dana will tell you I've been in his, we're not close or anything, but, you know, texts and conversations over the course of the last X number of years, particularly after the WWE merger and formation of TKO. This was inevitable, right? And frankly, Turkey making the 4 major guys all his little peons, it made this much more doable. And now you have a company capitalized on the stock exchange to 26, 27 million, depending on how you measure it.
Right.
With UFC alone, capitalized 11 billion, 26, 27 billion, 11 billion, and economically supported by the deepest pockets in the world. I mean, they're pretty much well set up for this.
So when you found out about this last week, and it was the worst kept secret.
It was not a secret.
Okay. Your initial reaction was what? Inevitable?
Inevitable, and that I think it couldn't be at a better time.
Why is that?
I mean, come on. Like you have, first of all, everything, the environment in this country, right? I mean, who's more in with the government right now than Dana and Joe Rogan? And you know, by, you know, just stretch that out to Nick Khan and Ari. Right. When Ari starts talking a couple of weeks ago about the Ali Act and how it was bad law, that said to me the Ali Act doesn't have a lot of time left. And maybe, by the way, I think the Ali Act, parts of the Ali Act should not be repealed.
You helped write the Ali Act.
Yes, I did, with John McCain, who was a friend of mine.
Right.
And I helped write the Ali Act. But there are parts of the Ali Act that no longer make any sense.
Like what?
I mean, why can't a promotion have its own belts? Well, why are we protecting the ratings organizations?
Okay, so why did you put that in there? Or why were you a part of the process of putting that in there?
I mean, it really wasn't, that wasn't the main thrust of the act, but it was trying at that point in time when look, that was being written at a time period where boxing was, as it usually is, totally Dodge City.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons why the whole system has to come down. And the greatest reason I think that Dana and Nick and the TKO people with Turkey's money have a tremendous chance to pull this off. First of all, Turkey's already the most powerful promoter in the business, right? So the second that this new company starts functioning, they are the biggest promoter in this business.
Right.
The other promoters have never been willing to work with one another, including, I mean, I was part of the system. By the way, I haven't had my life's been miserable, like not miserable, but it's been very difficult to be as successful as I've been with no platform, which I haven't had a platform since all these exclusive deals started happening. So to some extent, when Eddie and others, Aram, said I was a middleman, to some extent they're right, but what are they now? They're middlemen. And what have they been for the last couple of years? Middlemen. And you don't think Turki saw that? You think that, Turki's a smart guy, man. Like, you could say whatever you want, your feelings about Saudis being very active in sports. You could say, well, put all that aside. The man's a fan. And here's where he has a great advantage. He's a fan. He believes in quality control. And he believes the system is broken.
Do you believe it's broken?
I've been saying it for 20-something years. I've been saying it since I was an HBO executive. I've been, frankly, the only voice in the whole industry of self-criticism for most of the last 20 years. That's a fact. I mean, in fact, Eddie is wild, bro. He's wild.
What do you mean?
I just saw an interview with Eddie saying, man, I'm chill because I'm the greatest promoter. Look, Eddie's gifted like Don King was gifted. Eddie is Don King 2025 in the bombastic personality. I'll never be as tall as Eddie. I'll never be as good looking as Eddie. Eddie is like a celebrity in the UK. Eddie has a great sense of P.T. Barnum-esque promotion, right? That's his great self. But he's sitting going, I'm chill because I'm confident in my own company. But what I will take issue with is people saying boxing is broken. Go fuck yourself, Ed. You know it's broken. You know it's broken.
Why do you think he says that?
Because he's the same reason all these guys have been supporting the system. It's made them wealthy. By the way, Eddie's a little lost right now. In one interview, he's talking about retirement. In another interview, he's talking about I'm the best in the world. I think he's considering retirement eventually, and I also think he is one of the best in the world. I don't take that away from him. I mean, they're gifted people. Look, Eddie's a gifted guy. Aram was a gifted guy. It takes panache. It takes a very thick skin. It takes some brains to be able to survive in the Wild West that boxing has been. There are talented people sprinkled all over the place. But we never had our shit together. We've been a shit show. It's completely self-evident. You got to remember, I was called the czar of boxing for a decade.
Come closer to the mic if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, let me
Yeah, you can move it. Do whatever you want.
I was called, when I was at HBO, I was controlling their budget. We were maybe overstepping our bounds as a TV network a little bit.
How so?
Well, not really overstepping our bounds, but operating differently than anyone ever had before. Because the sport is lawlessness. And I used our budget to make the fights I wanted to make. There was a period of time that Aram and I didn't talk for a year. I didn't buy any of his fights because he didn't like the idea I was making matches. Well, guess what? I was paying for them. I love the fact that Turki makes the matches he wants to make. He pays insane money on the highest level, and he's made certain matches that because he wanted to see them and paid money that was completely not, in my mind, from a pure business standpoint, justifiable. But he kept boxing alive the last couple of years. But I don't believe he ever did it with an intent of leaving this system in place. What's business 101, bro? If you want to take out some people or make change, what's the easiest way to make change? Take the powers that are, make them beholden to you, buy them, in effect, and you're in a much better position to defeat them or defeat the existing system.
So do you think this was always the plan?
Yeah.
Come in, do business with everyone?
You can't make it. Here's another way that they're operating in a manner that I think is intelligent. They're clearly, there's not going to, people keep talking about league.
It's not a league.
It's not a league.
It's a promotion.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a promotion in the Dana White,
UFC promotion.
Nick Khan, UFC, WWE sense.
Yes.
Which can work. It's not a promotion in the boxing sense.
Correct.
With every man for himself, bro.
Right.
With no one giving a fuck about the future of your sport. With no reinvestment being made. With no long-term game plan, right? If they want this to work, they don't have to be concerned with putting other people out. They don't have to be. They're not going to. They can't shut down the BC, the BA, the IBF, the BO overnight. They're not going to cause. Eddie's a talented guy. Eddie will find some secondary place. See, what makes me think Eddie might retire, and honestly, on a human level, I get this because in my mind and in my heart, I've been in a process of sort of disengaging from the sport
Right.
for a while. Eddie doesn't want to play anything to be number 2 or 3 or 4. Like when Eddie came to America with the DAZN money, he was going to create a UFC. He was going to become the UFC. I'm going to use my giant budget. Well, he went back to England. As much as success and money he's made, as much success as he had, he went back to England with his tail between his legs.
You think so?
Oh yeah, but you think what? You think that Matchroom took over American boxing?
No,
What's American boxing right now?
But,
What happened to the Matchroom USA and the DAZN offices
right.
in the big building skyscraper down the road? What happened to that? I mean, how many subs are there in DAZN America right now? Do you know?
No.
Neither do I. Neither does anyone.
Right.
You think it's a lot?
What is a
How
lot?
many people you think really watched Bivol and Beterbiev in North America?
No, it's
Okay.
that was
How many people watched the heavyweight championship of the world in the middle of the afternoon in North America?
Right.
Okay. These are rhetorical questions. You know the answers. We don't have to debate it.
Right.
Because the reality is you can't sit here and say the sport's healthy.
Is it fair to say it's healthy overseas? It's healthy in the UK?
No, it's not.
Maybe not here
UK,
in America.
maybe.
UK?
Well, yeah, UK.
UK midday, they're talking about it like we talk about the NFL.
Man? You know, Boxer has a deal in Sky.
Right.
And everything is streaming. I mean, is it okay? Yeah, it's way healthier.
Wembley
UK
Stadium,
boxing,
98,000.
with Anthony. There's about 2 stars. Or 3
Sure.
stars. Here's another one. Who can walk down the street in boxing and get harassed everywhere? It's not that many people.
Sure.
And who are the mega stars in boxing? Fair to say Canelo number 1?
Yeah.
Probably Joshua number 2.
Tyson Fury, Joshua. Tyson's recognizable.
Well, I don't know. You think I honestly probably think 6 of 1, half a dozen.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest heavyweight fight you can make because boxing is healthy in UK. Also, the Saudis are somewhat UK centric. That's where they all go to school. That's where the kids all go to school. It's the same time zone, basically, roughly, right? Yeah, it's healthy in England. It's not in UK, but it's not particularly healthy in most of the world. I mean, if you look back to boxing in 1985, 1995, 2005, it's weaker worldwide now than it's ever been.
100%. I mean, it wasn't. ABC was showing, the fight of the century on a Monday night, right? Everything was different. You can't compare. But we got into a little thing.
I made the point that when Eddie came over here, he was thinking, okay, all that DAZN money will allow me to be the guy, create something like UFC like.
Yeah.
You heard that same rhetoric when they had the initial press conference for PBC. Not from Al Heyman, because Al doesn't talk.
Right.
But the pundits. Okay, they could create something like everyone who's ever had a relationship with the next person with money in boxing has thought about, I'm going to be the next UFC. Okay? Well, you can't be the next UFC when there are 5 other major promoters. You can't be the next UFC when there are 4 ratings organizations, way too many weight classes, multiple champions per weight class. Not only like a champion, but an interim champion. What the fuck that means. A super champion, a gold champion. Everyone's got a belt. Well, when everyone has a belt, no one has a belt.
Right. So why will these guys be different? Why will they have success when the others didn't?
Because they're going to ignore the existing system.
Okay.
The system of ratings organizations needed to be torn down a long time ago. One of the reasons why I am not a bigger promotional company over the course of years is that I've never been best friends with those organizations. I've been critical of them since I was a television executive, right? How do you have not only 4 organizations, too many weight classes, multiple champions per weight class? How do your ratings completely differ almost? How are different people rated all over the place?
Yeah.
Most world champions of the major ratings organizations can walk down a street in Times Square and no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
They could walk down a street in Piccadilly Circus and no one knows who they are. That's a fact.
So what do you think they'll do? They'll get rid of the Ali Act and then say we're going to have our own belt.
I think the Ali Act. I think the Ali Act will probably go.
Do they need to get rid of the Ali Act to let this thing fly, or can they do it with the Ali Act still in place?
I don't know if they have to get rid of it. I don't know. I think it's a pretty good environment too. I think it makes it less.
But the Ali Act stops the promotion from having its own belt. So don't you have to get rid of it first?
Well, that part of it has to be changed, but I believe that part of it should be changed.
Or can they get away with it with the ring belt?
There needs to be a prohibition on coercion, right? And no one should be forced to sign with anybody. And I think that there should still be some protection for that. But the idea, there's no reason in my mind that a promotion can't. Why are we protecting ratings organizations? Why? I don't think the promotion there should be any prohibition on a promotion giving out its own belts. Why not? Why? What's the problem?
Is there a chance that some of these guys who have been enemies, but over the past 2 years or so have been forced to work together, say, you know what?
Oh, they've been forced to work together. What did they really have to do, bro?
Well,
the biggest events have been you think they had to really work hard promoting in Saudi Arabia, or did they just take big checks?
No, 100%. They were
okay. So what did they really have to do?
They were glorified managers.
How are they going to work together? Like they couldn't get television or keep quality television contracts. I mean, how many networks have you chased out of the business? Right? I mean, would a healthy boxing have celebrity boxing and Jake Paul boxing as big as it now is? Don't you think that sort of filled the void that we sort of created? Right? I mean, the environment in general, you can't fix boxing within the existing parameters. So when I hear Eddie do an interview and he says, I'm chill, but I take issue with boxing's broken, people care about all these belts.
Right.
Well, yeah, the fighters care about belts, but the fighters care about money more. And here's the reality. There's no middle class any longer. Most fighters are fighting below the poverty line. There are millions of fighters all around the world, literally when I say there are fighters everywhere, right? And a lot of them are inactive. A lot of them are fighting for free. A lot of them are fighting for money that you wouldn't even fathom how low it is. Fighters that are fighting in Africa and Asia, fighting for next to nothing. There is no middle class. Fighters are poor. The average working class, like lunch pail fighter, is poor, right? And then even when you look at it, some guys are getting super wealthy. 4 promotional companies have made a lot of money, right? But if you look at what happened 5 years ago, Arum came and had his new ESPN deal.
Yep.
That's over. Eddie came to America, opened giant offices, created Matchroom USA. He still has a deal with DAZN. He's still a good promoter. He still has some talent, but he didn't take anything over. And he basically went back and operated out of the UK. He didn't make it here in the way he thought it would. It wasn't transformative. And as soon as people got all these exclusive deals, what else happened? They didn't work with other people. They tried to create their own thing.
Right.
And it became even a greater impediment. How many times did you hear the old saying, the other side of the street, the other side of the street?
Yeah.
Fuck that other side of the street. You destroyed your own business. You didn't make the big fights because you were operating your own company. It was every man for himself. And we sort of deserve to be here. And I made money in the system also. I mean, to be honest, I was never big enough to change the system. I'll say this. There was a promoter summit 10, 15 years ago where everyone was in a room. And I prognosticated a lot of shit. I said HBO's not going to stay in. Showtime's not going to stay in. We're not going to be able to sustain the same kind of success we've had if we don't start working together. Honestly, working together to the point that we could create a television property with a promoters association, self-govern. Dana and Nick and Turkey will self-govern. You've already seen Turkey governing. It's been a little bit, of I'm governing.
Right.
But they're going to control their own thing.
Right.
That's a tremendous.
By the way, when you said this at the summit, did people push back? Did they say you're crazy?
No, it was funny. A lot of people got it. The people that pushed back were the ones who were then the most successful. Right? But if you look at promotion, look at a lot of the companies that were significant a decade ago, very few are left.
And so if it's so broken, if it's so in the dumps now, why are these smart men getting into this business?
Because you can recreate it. Why did they get into UFC?
Sure, but they bought it for $2 million, and they were buying 3 letters back in 2000.
But you don't have to buy anyone right now. That's the joy. You don't have to buy anyone. By the way, the ratings organizations were all over Turkey. He wrote checks to the BC and the WBA.
Yeah.
He created
They're having a Grand Prix.
Grand Prix, whatever the tournament is.
Yeah.
But he had no intention of keeping them in place. I think Turkey understood, and by the way, I've been led to believe this by, I don't know the man. I haven't talked to him.
Have you ever met him?
No. Don't know the man. I know a lot of people that do. I know a lot of people that talk to him regularly. I know from those people that he made it clear that he never believed the existing system was tenable. He thought there were too many belts. He thought there were too many organizations. He thought, I think in the back of his head, he knew that he needed to tear it down to build it up again. That is what Dana has always said publicly, that the shit show that exists in boxing right now can't continue. He used to call major boxing events, what do you call them, fire sales or going out of business sales?
Right.
He's not wrong about that. In the sense that we've always been people that basically made money grabs are big. There was never a strategy, a communal strategy to better the sport, to clean it up, get rid of bad decisions, remove judging from its connection to ratings organizations, stop paying ratings organizations to compete with one another, force them to create one organization so there's one champion per weight class. When you all have your little individual, though, exclusivity with a network, maybe you want as many belts as possible because everyone wants a belt. PBC wants belts, and Top Rank wants belts, and Matchroom wants belts, and Queensberry wants belts. And by the way, now that the four major promoters have something to worry about, and the ratings organizations have something to worry about, there'll be a little bit more cooperation. They're not going to all die overnight.
How long do you think it takes for them to really get a stranglehold on this?
5 years, maybe
5 years.
2 to 3 before they establish themselves as clearly the most major promoter. I think they already are, though, because Turkey is.
Yeah.
Turkey going into business with Dana and Nick, that's a lot of talent. You have, like I said earlier, you have one of the richest countries in the world supporting a business capitalized at $25 to $27 billion, depending on who you talk to. They've done it already. They've self-governed WWE and created a powerhouse. Yeah, there's AEW, there's other wrestling, but it's insignificant. I mean, you look at UFC. Yeah, there are other promotions. Right now, they're probably weaker than they've ever been. Now, UFC may have some issues with star power or whatever, but they'll deal with them. And right now, they're in such a dominant position. They have no worries. Their value keeps growing. Their product. I mean, I watched the show the other night, man. And
What'd you think?
I'm not. I was rooting for Pereira.
Oh, wow. What a difference from being on SportsCenter many years ago debating Joe Rogan to now ordering the pay-per-views.
That was fucking 15 years ago.
No, I know, but you've come a long way.
So is, maybe Joe Rogan has too. When I rewatched that thing, I don't know that he was totally right either. But
by the way, I actually rewatched it this morning just for shits and giggles. A lot of people in retrospect say, you got beat in the debate. But he said something that actually is very inaccurate now that no one brings up. And he says that all the stars of today are the last stars.
No.
And there are, obviously, we were just talking about some. Now, are they megastars? Are they on the level of the 70s stars? No. But new stars did come post Mayweather, De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, etc.
Yes, not many of them, though. And
Naoya Inoue is a gigantic star in Japan.
In Japan.
Yeah, but I'm saying Alexander Usyk is a massive star. We can't just.
Well, no, is he a massive star?
Alexander Usyk?
Yeah.
In Europe, I think so.
I know.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I mean, I think he's great. I think he's pound for pound great. Is he a massive star? I think you've never
had. A star?
I don't think you've ever had
Ryan Garcia star.
A heavyweight championship. Yeah, partially because of social media, though.
You can't put those types
No, it's a different world, though, because what makes you a mess. So Jake Paul might be the biggest. I don't consider him a real fighter, but Jake Paul might be the biggest star in boxing. Because he sucks.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that he could be a bad fighter, but he can still be a fighter.
Okay, he's a fighter. And you know what? In fairness, by the way, I don't want to be unfair. He works his ass off. I've seen him get better.
He steps through the ropes.
I probably, in the course of my career, have promoted people that are no better than him.
Right.
There are people that are professional right now that he could stand up with. So it's probably unfair for me to say he's not a fighter. He's not the talent of a superstar fighter. He's a superstar fighter because he's a celebrity.
Sure.
He is still more of a celebrity fighter than a traditional boxer. Dude, he fought a 58-year-old fucking man and
100%.
They called it a real fight. They called it a real fight. That's another problem. Think about our sport. You think Dana White would ever promote something where a 58-year-old man who is admittedly does a lot of drugs and just had a bleeding ulcer fought a 27-year-old guy fighting full-time boxer or MMA guy? You think he would ever do that? Because I don't think so.
Not in 2025 when he's in the position that he's in now. But is it worth at least noting that Netflix, the biggest platform on the planet, they were interested?
Yeah, but Netflix. I mean, yeah, but
they were interested in.
But they're supposed to be.
So is that the knock on boxing, or is that the knock on the times that we're living in? And is there something to be said?
No, it's a knock on the times we're living in.
Is there something to be said for what happened to Serrano and Taylor as a result of being on that card? Because now look what they're getting. They're getting their own platform on July 11th.
Okay, let's see if the big money for women's boxing survives, and I hope it does. I absolutely look. I lost fighters to Jake Paul. He's still trying to steal my fighters right now that are female. You know what? I can't do anything for them like he can. I mean, with all due respect, Netflix isn't walking around looking for women fighters. It's Serrano Taylor was underneath Tyson. It was people that saw that fight saw it because
100%.
no one turned in to watch Taylor and Serrano. People turned in to watch Tyson and whatever. Now
For sure, but there's a
everyone
trickle
saw
down
it.
effect. Yeah.
I don't begrudge them the girls $1. I'm glad they're getting paid. Honestly, I think that Jake has a niche now because he has his own niche as a celebrity fighter. And while everybody else is trying to figure out what to do in the men's boxing game, he's out there trying to accumulate women and create a female promotion.
Smart play?
I think so. I mean, I couldn't do it, but he can. Smart play. I think so. I've always believed that women's boxing could be bundled up and create opportunity. Right now, there are female world champions making 10 and 15 grand.
Right.
Jake hasn't changed that. Now, maybe if he gets a big series or something, maybe he can. I can't walk into Netflix and get a women's series. Jake Paul can.
Do you think that the TKO group will create their own belt, or do you think they'll just use the ring belt?
I mean,
And does it matter?
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It matters because people like trinkets, right? First of all, the ring belt only works in a unification situation. What the ring belt traditionally has been is the person in the weight class. So, and that's one of the key things about the fact that you and I know, and it's a big worst kept secret in boxing, that there already is a Netflix deal with TKO and with Turkey. It's going to be announced shortly. Canelo and Crawford will be the first TKO promoted mega event. Brilliant, because you need the biggest events and then you need the development. You need to rise up with the new stars, which they will do because they will wind up with ESPN. Look at the track record of WWE entertainment properties. Look at the track record of UFC as a media property. And then look at the track record of boxing. Dude, it's fucking nuts. It's not even.
So just last night, one of the brightest young stars in boxing is a young man named Abdullah Mason. He fights for Top Rank.
No, but does it matter?
No, here's what I'm saying. Turkey just out of the blue tweeted about it.
And that's good for Abdullah Mason. Mason,
it's tremendous. But
Abdullah
do you think there's going to be a purge now? Like, everyone is available. We are and there's nothing. Top Rank, Matchroom, Queensberry, De La Hoya. There's Boxer. You can't do nothing about this.
It's going to be very hard for people that got enriched to the degree they've been enriched by Turkey to go after Turkey for talking about or directly to their fighters. So you're not going to see people, or like people aren't going to be
De La Hoya pushed back a little bit yesterday. He said he was offended.
Dude, that interview, come on, man, I'm hurt. What the fuck are you hurt about, bro? Like, what are you hurt about? Hurt? What the fuck? I mean, I couldn't even fathom that interview.
By the way, 8 months ago, De La Hoya was criticizing Turkey.
I have friends at his company. I don't talk. Oscar blocked me a long time ago. I don't know. We were like, honestly, Oscar and I we're always cool. I don't know. I said something he didn't like. He blocked me.
Okay.
But I said to people at his company, and I said to people at Matchroom, I said to all my other. I know everyone. I said, and I didn't mean this in a negative way or disrespectfully toward Turkey, but I said you let the wolf into the henhouse. He's not doing this to enrich you. He's enriching you to get in to the top talent. That top talent is now His Excellency, His Excellency, His Excellency. Personally, I don't call anyone His Excellency other than Jesus Christ. If he returns to earth, I'll use the term His Excellency. Otherwise, I'm not holding a man's hand or calling him His Excellency. Right? I have respect for the man, though. He cares about the sport, has a plan, has shown quality control, has created programming over the last couple of years that never would have happened without him. Right? He hasn't done bad things for boxing. By the way, you know this. As much as I don't like Nikisa Badarian, he probably doesn't like me. I'm not a big fan of Jake's. I don't think Jake did anything negative to the sport of boxing. I don't think like all the arguments that Jake Paul's doing this stuff brings good attention to boxing and boxing rises up because of it. That's equally horseshit. However, no one could blame Jake Paul for the state of boxing. Jake Paul hasn't done anything wrong to boxing. If anything, Amanda Serrano should be very grateful to him, and Katie Taylor's made more money than she ever made, and he hasn't hurt anyone. I mean, the fact that he has the niche he has is more of a reflection of the total shit show nature of the industry. And I think you were getting there earlier when you asked another question. No, he didn't do anything inappropriate or wrong. He took advantage of an industry that needed stars because very few people were transcending anything. There were very few people that could have fought 58-year-old Mike Tyson and done a world of eyeballs the way that did. That's a tribute to Jake's star power. Jake's star power is undeniable. You know, you want to sit there and say, I don't like the guy. I don't love this kind of boxing. I don't like the influencer stuff. That's fine. But one, don't say he hurt boxing. He didn't. And also, you can't deny his innate popularity and his star power.
So what do you think happens? Like Crawford and Canelo, they're not tied to anyone right now. So
And that makes it very easy.
That's the perfect one.
Okay, well,
but then what happens in a year from now? Do you think he's not working with Eddie, not working with Frank, not working with
dude, he'll work with them to the extent he needs to or wants to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I'm not sure Tyson Fury is contracted to anybody right now. I'm not sure what his contractual situation is. But if he is contracted to Frank Warren in Queensberry, they'll get paid, right? I think Eddie does have some kind of deal with AJ.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they'll begrudge him his logo in the corner of a poster. And I don't think they'll rip him off of what he's entitled to economically. Do I think that Turkey is going to ask Eddie's permission to talk to AJ? Probably not.
Right.
I don't think he's asked anyone's permission. And frankly, every fighter on earth wants to talk to him. And like I said, when he appeared on Turkey's Twitter feed, and Abdullah Mason got a little bit of pump from Turkey yesterday, Abdullah Mason probably went to sleep last night feeling pretty damn good.
Yeah, no. But that's the thing.
And by the way,
of the world are like, okay, so is this it? Is Keyshawn next?
Look, they didn't lose their ESPN deal because of Turkey. They didn't lose their ESPN deal because of Dana or Nick.
Why did they?
That. Just because of the marginalization of boxing. Traditional boxing is not pop culture the way it was when I was running HBO Sports.
Yeah.
The world has changed.
Yeah. Can it ever get back to that?
Not with the present structure. Maybe, and that's why, dude, I'm not hating on what Nick and
no, do you think that...
I think that Nick and Dana, and with Turkey's money and Saudi money, and I think it's also interesting, by the way, Shapiro, the people that they work for, said, we don't necessarily believe in boxing. We got our doubts about boxing, but with the Saudi money and no economic risk to our company, we'll try to build it with them. We'll run it. I think they picked good people to run it.
Yeah.
I think they picked the right people to build it with. People who know how to create. See, the only reason people are saying league is because promotion means something different in boxing.
Right. Yeah.
But what it really is a promotion.
Right.
But it's a self-contained business, the way UFC is, the way WWE is. That is their best chance to create something transformative for boxing.
Do you think they'll be successful?
I think they can be.
Yeah. Hey there. Sorry to interrupt. Just want to remind you, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it very much. And while you're at it, give us a thumbs up too. We've got live shows, interviews, clips, and a whole lot more going on this here channel. All right, now back to the show.
I think that, you got to be careful. There are people that know more about how to make matches in boxing in the trenches than they do. I hope that they use some of those people.
Yeah, they have to hire boxing people, right?
Well,
They're not going to sit there and matchmake.
I think that their intention is probably stay away from a lot of traditional boxing.
They're going to hire matchmakers and whatnot. They're not going to sit there.
But they're going to learn really interestingly what matchmakers are in boxing. They're a very weird, interesting crew. And they're all sorts of independent booking agents. The whole system of matchmaking is weird. They're going to be shocked what they encounter. It's not so easy. You can't just go out there and say, I'm hiring this guy. There are not very few real.
Do you like the idea? They say that they're gonna whittle down the weight classes, focus on the original 8 or so, one champion, all this. Do you like this?
I think there are too many weight classes, but I don't know.
What are there, like 17 now?
Yeah, but I got to tell you, when you're really small, 8 pounds means a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure about the original 8, but I would definitely whittle them down.
Okay.
I think 17's too many.
And they'll just say,
I think the reality is
buzz off WBC. They're just going to ignore all of them. We're doing it by ourselves.
That's the right move.
Yeah. And what do you think happens to those guys in 10 years? What happens to Mauricio Suleiman?
Mauricio will be, the WBC is not going to be extinguished.
They're not?
Mauricio's resourceful, has a lot of relationships. Around the world, in certain countries, right now where boxing operates in a small little bubble where it's not big, Italy, a lot of other places, they're still going to want the belts. They're still going to pay the sanctioning fees.
Okay.
I think there'll be fewer employees. There'll be less lavish conventions. They're going to have to pay themselves less. They're going to be less significant. But, well, here's the other thing. How does Eddie survive without belts? How does Aram survive without belts?
Do you think then Eddie makes his own belt? Why can't
No.
Why?
No, because Eddie he told you what he was going to do. Listen to the interview. He just said boxing's not broken.
Right.
People want these belts. He's talking about the BC, the IBF, the WBA, the WBO. I've wanted to put those look, I got friends at those places.
Right.
I think there are some very good. Mauricio Suleiman loves boxing. His father loved boxing. I fought cats and dogs with his father, but I loved him. But his father knew that if I could create one organization and get rid of 3 of them, I would have done it.
Did you ever try?
Yeah, I sat in a room with every promoter in the business.
Right, but you yourself, like,
dude, there's no way of trying. I was never that.
HBO, when HBO was at its peak.
Oh
when you were there.
Yes. I mean, there were times we didn't promote the belts, we didn't put them up or whatever. I didn't like them. I mean, I tried. There were times that I got hit with a mandatory. I stood on the stage and motherfucked the organization as an HBO exec, saying, "I'm buying this because I fucking have to."
Right.
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 I mean, there was. So I mean that. I have mixed feelings about the organizations. I have a lot of friends at the IBF. I think there's some very good people that care about boxing. I think the guy that runs the WBO, Olivieri, is a good guy. I think that the IBF, once they collapsed because of the legal problems they had, they were put into federal receivership, and they had to clean up their act. I think they have operated by their rules more than any organization has.
Yeah. But they screw things up. That's why I'm actually okay.
You can't have...
we have undisputed title fight and say, we need this belt
How do you have 4 belts in one weight?
Yeah.
Man? And particularly in a sport that's no longer particularly mainstream. I mean, you know this. We are a niche sport.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but we've had that going on for years. And by the way, the only time it ever served anyone was when the exclusive deals were... Eddie had his exclusive deal at DAZN. PBC had their deals. Aram had ESPN. Well, then the more belts, the merrier, because everyone gets a belt.
Right.
But the reality is, your champions are no longer water cooler conversation topics. Right? No one's getting up and close because they don't know who the hell they are.
Right.
I believe that Dana and Nick and Turkey have a terrific chance here to create a reinvigorated industry and create a sport that's far more mainstream, but not correct. They're correct when they say not by working within the existing system, by tearing it down.
Right.
There are quotes from me, and I went over and just Googled. I mean, you can find quotes from me 20 years ago saying the sport needed an enema.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said for a long time, you know, when people are saying why all the bad decisions, I'm always pissed off by the decisions. If you go on my Twitter account over the years, I mean, I go crazy because I understand why they're happening. Look at how sanctioning fees are set. Look, the organizations make the most money from the biggest star. So if the biggest star is being taxed, in effect, a few percentage points, you want that guy to keep winning because he's delivering the biggest check.
Do you think that's what happened with Tank Davis in New York?
Yeah, to some degree. You know, I don't think Steve Willis is a bad guy. I don't think there was corruption there. I think he royally fucked up.
Yeah.
But he knew who Gervonta Davis was.
But they could have overturned it, and they didn't.
They didn't
not piss him off.
There might have been a lot.
That's the
by
easiest
the way,
overturning of all time.
I can't point to one instance where the New York Commission's ever overturned.
No commission ever overturned.
Well, they don't.
Especially against the superstar.
They don't do it. They're afraid.
Right.
They don't do it.
Right.
By the way, the whole system of state athletic commissions right now is completely
You think that's going to go away too?
No, but I think that, frankly, I don't think they micromanage UFC from a state commission level the way they more micromanage boxing, because boxing's been a shit show. Boxing's been a free-for-all. I mean, you know, you heard Andy Foster say, hey, I think Dana getting into this is good. I think UFC, TKO getting into this is good. Those people know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that feeling exists a lot of places. They know what they're doing. You know?
Now, let me ask you about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. That's journalism, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
ready for this one.
You call Turkey the best promoter, the most successful promoter the last couple of years. And I'm not knocking these guys.
I will caveat. He didn't have to work. He didn't care about making or losing money.
Yes,
but in terms of creating the biggest fights,
yes,
100%.
100%. And so any outlet that is owned by a promoter, from a journalistic standpoint, is problematic. There's a conflict of interest there. And so how do you feel about the top journalists now all working for this one outlet, The Ring?
And I think that most of the journalists out there suck. I think there's a complete lack of talent. I think I respect you. You work for other guys. You work for people in the industry too. I respect a lot of other guys who work for people in the industry. I think everyone has to feed their families and get paid. But the nature of boxing journalism right now is sort of a joke because there's nothing independent about it. And everybody who, like the guys who I consider the best and the brightest among them are all co-opted to a degree. You know, I mean, Carpenter's at ESPN, but I could see Carpenter going to work for these guys at some point. You know, the Ring magazine, you know, it was owned by Oscar. So Turkey bought it. It was bought by one promoter from another, right? So it's not like Turkey bastardized Ring magazine. It was already owned by Oscar.
But there were like 2 people working for it when Oscar
But you see it already.
Now it's become the source.
It's a source, and it's also a little bit of a propaganda situation, right? But it's a marketing situation. I'm not going to flip out over it.
Right.
But I don't think there's independent journalism in boxing any longer, really. I mean, almost everybody, like, you know, Maddox was writing for, but he was working for DAZN, and
that's okay if you're working for the network, not the promoter.
Yes and no, but in the old, it wasn't the way it was when I started the business. It wasn't that way in the 90s.
Howard Cosell worked for ABC. He told it like it is.
Yeah, but he only worked for ABC.
No, but the point is, if you work for the network, I think that's okay. If you're working for the promoter, then it's a conflict, especially when you're working for a network that works with multiple promoters.
Exclusive with the promoter. It's
no, but they've got an exclusive with like 6 promoters at this point. So what are you going to be biased to the? I mean,
well, by the way, Turkey owns 10% of the zone.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from everything I'm hearing and being led to believe, Canelo and Crawford, the biggest fight of 2025. Ain't going to be on the zone.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you would think that there are rectums rotating at the zone. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong? No, seriously. What are they? The industry? What sport is their locomotive? I mean, in certain territories,
sure.
big soccer deal, soccer league deal.
Yeah, they have League One in France.
Right. They have places where. Okay, but what has been their like common?
Yeah, boxing.
Okay. Well,
is there a world where, you know, they mentioned, Mark Shapiro mentioned 4 mega events on Netflix.
Yeah.
There's got to be more events.
Okay, so I mean,
so the rest go there.
Turkey owns part of the zone. Some will go on the zone. You're not building a star on the zone. Name me one star that's been built on the zone.
I mean, the vast majority of.
Name me a star that's built on the zone.
AJ's run. I know a little bit on Sky.
No.
Well, what?
Name me a star that was built on the zone.
I mean,
he was a star before he ever went near the
Ryan
zone.
Garcia.
No.
What?
No.
Why not?
Because he wasn't.
Isn't a star or wasn't built on DAZN?
Wasn't built on DAZN.
Last few years, he's been on DAZN, and that's
he's been on pay-per-view.
No, I don't know about that.
I mean, he's had some.
Maybe DAZN
he wasn't
pay-per-view.
built on DAZN. When you have how many millions of internet followers does he have? Honestly.
What came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean,
DAZN hasn't built a star.
Okay.
And I'll give you a clear example. Okay, give a clear example. Boots Ennis is one of the best fighters in the world.
Sure.
No one knows who the fuck he is.
Yeah, but he's had 2 fights on DAZN. He was on Showtime all this time.
You're not building a star on a streaming service that has virtually no...
that's not a fair example.
You're not building a star on a streaming service. See, this is why... I'm sorry, you can't... This is why a free press would be necessary.
What do you mean?
Because people who work for networks, these kind of conversations I have all the time. You can't argue with me that you could really build a star on DAZN. You can't build a superstar on DAZN when DAZN's penetration in North America is what it is, which is negligible.
But what about the rest of the world?
Okay, in the rest of the world, how many people you still think subscribe to DAZN worldwide? They just had go look at their last annual report.
Let me ask you this. Did Showtime build any stars?
Yeah.
Worldwide, there's more people who have DAZN than had Showtime in America.
Okay, but they built stars. It was a combination, bro. Pay-per-view,
right?
Linear. This is also Dana and Nick, WWE, UFC.
They are the best.
Understand the power of linear.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that you need not only multiple platforms, you need multiple types of platforms, right? You need competitive, quote-unquote, free fights. You need eyeballs on ESPN.
But you know, outside of America, they're no longer on linear anymore, WWE.
No, I get it.
The whole thing is on Netflix.
Well, look, the whole world's changing.
Sure.
And I'm just making a point.
So why can't DAZN change for those times?
Like, with all due respect, what's the big changes at DAZN? They lost $500 million less last year? Why did they lose? No, you're laughing, but come on. Why did they lose $500 million less? You want to know why? It's self-evident. They lost $500 million less because Turkey was a really good partner.
Sure, 100%.
And Turkey wasn't getting guaranteed deals from DAZN. Turkey was revenue splits. So all of a sudden, DAZN had these mega events that they couldn't make on their own, by the way, that Turkey made, and then DAZN had access to them without having to make a gigantic guarantee. Turkey's been pretty good to DAZN, right? But Turkey also has a tremendous amount of power there now, and he owns 10% of the company. And didn't I think I heard Turkey say something about Dana going to crush everybody. Did he say that?
Yeah.
Did you hear that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's the goal, 100%.
Right,
He also
well,
said, I'm passing
it ain't gonna be that hard.
I'm passing the baton over to them. They're going to take it
He
over.
never intended it long term. I give the guy credit. I don't think he ever intended long term to give the baton to the guys he made the deals with. Now, maybe there's a slight chance he had some thought of that, and then he saw how it operates and saw what they really brought to the table, and maybe he changed his mind. I tend to think he never really had that intent. I think in the back of his head, he always thought that Nick, Dana, TKO were an inevitable partner. I don't know. I don't know.
Can I ask you this question? Knowing what you know of them, these are three, and if we want
big egos, big egos, big personalities.
Yes. Do you think they can coexist?
I don't know. I mean, I think they're also very, don't take anything away from them. Dana's got a gigantic ego, but Dana's also a smart guy. Dana also, they're a publicly traded company. They like money. They like succeeding. They win. Honestly, they're getting a benefit of a no-risk deal.
Right.
I mean, if you listen to what Shapiro said, right? That's a pretty wonderful situation. Have an opportunity to create something that's as powerful as UFC, as powerful as, and they can. What they're going to do in boxing, if done correctly, and if they get the traction they need, and they could all coexist, and it can be every bit the brand UFC is and WWE are. Because boxing is ripe for a takeover.
Right.
Look, every time a Triller came in, someone came in,
Yep.
the powers in boxing, everyone ran to take their money. Everybody was willing to take the money. And, this is why, imagine being Eddie 4 weeks ago, you give a fucking interview. Most honest interview, by the way, I ever saw Eddie give on social media. And look, I got a little bit of a love-hate with Eddie, but I don't hate Eddie. I know Eddie since he's a kid. And he's a talented guy, man. Eddie's got that P.T. Barnum. I keep saying P.T. Barnum.
Yeah, gift of gab.
But he's that circus, Barker. I mean, he'll be the first to tell you, I ain't the smartest guy, but I got the gift of gab. I'm a great bullshitter. And he is. He's a tremendous force of nature. For Eddie to say about a month ago, and I'm almost the exact words, saying, no one really wants to say it or admit it, but we all work for Turkey. And frankly, if he asked me to shine his shoes, I would shine them. Problem is, inevitably and in the end, he didn't want a shoe shine boy. He didn't need his sandals shined. He needed someone, a partner, to execute his vision of completely changing the system. One champion, the best fight the best, right? One quote-unquote league. I think league is a language barrier thing. I don't really think they mean league. I think they mean self-contained promotion. Right?
Do you think he looked at any of those guys to do it with, or was the plan always
I don't know well enough to answer, but look, obviously the announcements of the last week or two, they don't come based upon 3 or 4 conversations.
Sure.
He's been talking to Nick, particularly Nick, more of a deal maker on that level than Dana, I think. I think he's probably been talking to Nick for a long time. I don't know that.
Yeah, they've been in business with WWE for the last few years
All
as
right,
well.
so it would suggest to you that these conversations have occurred over a course of time.
Yeah.
I think he had an idea what he was doing. Look, I know people that signed NDAs with him and went into press guys. I think you know them too. I don't know if you ever were in a meeting with the other press guys in Turkey, but I think he actually told people that he thought the structure needed to be torn down. Writers. They couldn't write it. He did it on an off-the-record basis. But I think he's been talking.
Why'd they do that?
What?
It was just an off-the-record chat, and they signed NDAs?
No, I think he had an off-the-record meeting.
Really?
What I was led to believe is that there were a few off-the-record meetings.
I didn't get the invite.
I don't know. Well, I mean,
Maybe I didn't make it.
And they might have taken place in Saudi. I don't know.
Sure.
But there were some off-the-record meetings where he suggested that he believed it needed to be torn down. Hey, dude, I got to admit it. Like Mauricio is a friend of mine, and he's mad at me now. I mean, he was mad at me for another thing too, because I went after him for something else on social media recently. None of the organizations are in love with me because I've been shitting on them for 25 years.
Does this make you sad or hopeful for the future of boxing?
I mean,
you still love the sport.
I love the sport.
Yeah,
okay.
You do.
I love it. I was sad when HBO came out of it. I got out of it. It was a dark day for me.
Yeah.
I think we did this to ourselves. I think that we have no one to blame but ourselves. We were every man for himself. I can't sit here. I think I tried to be more of a voice of conscience a little bit than some people did. I think I stayed small because it allowed me not to change some of the ways I wanted to do business. I never was the dominant guy. I've always lurked around the top 5 or 6 in the country for most of the 25 years I was a promoter. But I never really thought of myself blowing up. I never took offense.
Did you try to get one of those big deals, you know?
I don't know. You know, the interesting part was, no, I tried to talk to people.
DAZN, did you try?
Yeah, I gave them whole business plans about women's boxing, all sorts of things, but I didn't want to go there. I think the people that ran this.
Like, would you?
Yeah,
right
I did. I tried that.
Right now, Dimitri Salita has a promotion that reminds me a little bit of yours. Is that a fair based on?
No, because I think I'm also more understood my role. When I got out of HBO, here's another reason the whole system has to change. By the way, promoters are no longer the money. When the State Athletic Commission rules were written, promoters were the money. When promoters are no longer the money, pay-per-view is the money, Turkey is the money, streaming services are the money, right? None of those players, for the most part, the streaming services and networks, after I left HBO, there was no quality control inherent in any of the platforms, and we never exercised our own. And when people got exclusive deals like Aram got and Eddie got, I was against exclusive deals. I never really sought one because I thought they were wrong. And I publicly have gone after them forever. And one of the reasons why boxing's in the state it's in right now, one of the reasons why I do think that Dana and Nick and Turkey have a terrific opportunity here, is that we didn't exercise quality control. We weakened our own product. PBC wanted to make their fights within PBC world. Eddie, Matchroom was doing its own thing. They didn't want to enrich other people. You kept hearing about crossing the street. And all these exclusive deals were happening. It wasn't making for better product, it was making for worse product. I'm shocked no one ever came to me and said, Lou, you were the best television matchmaker programmer ever in boxing. Probably true to this day, honestly. And I'm proud of that. Probably got me into the Hall of Fame. It wasn't by being the 4th or 5th biggest promoter or 6th in the United States. It was more, I think it was a combination of what I did at HBO and what I did later. I don't think exclusivity is good where you have a broken... Boxing has been too every man for itself to do an exclusive deal with one promoter. Right now, in the weak state it's in, these guys come in, they're going to be the dominant promoter. And it creates a whole different thing. And then shedding those belts, no 7 champions per weight class, no 18 weight classes. I think by the way, that they should look carefully at the original weight classes and maybe come out somewhere in between, because otherwise they're going to deprive themselves of some great fighters making great fights. Because
how many events would you suggest they do?
I don't know.
On
I don't have any suggestion. And by the way, I think that's going to be dictated to some degree by the success they have.
Yeah.
How many platforms open the doors for them, right?
I think they're going to be...
I don't think they're going to put... I think there'll always be other boxing. I don't know.
They're going to be very successful because they're going to get the ESPN deal. They're going to be on Netflix. No one has better relationships with the media companies than Nick. Dana's a lifer in this business. He's cutthroat. He's ruthless, but he gets
it's going to be much harder for an
And then
Eddie.
you got the pockets. It's like the greatest trio for this type of takeover possible, right?
It was
Who's
obvious.
more nervous right now? Those promoters or the ratings? Who's more nervous? Who's going to be extinct quicker? Probably
I think they're all going to be different than they are right now. I think, look, first of all, Aram's 94 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, unless he's Methuselah, right? His run is limited in time, and I love Bob. I mean, it's funny because I almost killed him. It's in the HBO, the book that was written about HBO. How at one point I jumped over a couch and had to be pulled off of him, but I mean, he's 94 years old. He's a survivor. I mean, But
he's got Todd waiting in the wings.
And it's going to be harder for Todd. Todd doesn't have the gravitas. Todd doesn't have the relationships. Todd doesn't have the relationships with the fighters. Todd took a hit with that lawsuit. It's going to be harder. I mean, Top Rank, in terms of organizationally, is the best organization. You could argue who you believe is the best promoter. I mean, I see why you said Eddie. Eddie's bombastic that kind of a judgment. Eddie's talented.
What do you think of all the Times Square, all this stuff, and no tickets sold?
I mean, it's a fucking look. Turkey can afford to do what the fuck he wants. I think it's cool. I mean, Alcatraz, on one level, who gives a shit? On the other level, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
And if Turkey wants to do it, he can afford it. He can afford it. Right? I mean, it ain't hurting anything.
Right.
It gives cachet. I think the Times Square thing's sort of cool.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if he was thinking profit margin and really worried about the P&L, it wouldn't be at Times Square, or it wouldn't be at Alcatraz.
Do you have any idea what that would cost them to rent out Times Square?
Well, they don't rent out all of Times Square.
No, but even a portion of it.
It's expensive, bro. I mean, security's expensive. You got to pay the police department. I mean, the police presence.
Can't even fathom,
it's
because they reference New Year's Eve, but that's the city shutting it down.
It's not like New Year's.
No, it's totally.
But you're not going to have 10,000 or 100,000 people watching it. Well, maybe they're not closing down the whole Times Square so people can gather and watch the big screens. Now, he rented all the big screens, but my understanding is it's under 1,000 people that can be in that bubble.
But still,
it's phenomenally expensive. No one else would do it.
Right.
Dude, you understand how little reinvestment there was in boxing? First of all, I couldn't do the reinvestment. I had a small company. I never had more than 6 employees.
Wow.
Okay, I never had a giant company. I never got offended when Richard Schaefer or Heyman would call me mom and pop. For a period of time, I had a great relationship with Heyman. I promoted almost every event at Barclays Center for those early years of BBC. In a weird way, I think the success I had building the Brooklyn market maybe was one of the reasons Al and I fell out, because Al didn't want a promoter to have that association with anything. I still respect Al. He's we don't talk really the way we did. We were friends for 19 years, but I got nothing but love for him. I actually think also he's a really resourceful, smart guy. He won't be put out of business by this, but everyone's got more issues and problems. How do you build a star now? Like how do you embrace the existing system which failed? Like when Eddie gave that interview and he said, "I'm chill because I'm comfortable in my own business." I believe he is. I mean, if you couldn't do what Eddie and I did, what Aram did, what Frank Warren did, what Oscar did without a big ego. Comes with the territory. Does Dana have an immense ego? Yeah, Dana's also one of the best promoters on the planet, right? Now, it may be interesting to see how his ego drives long-term with Turki's ego, because they both appear to have gigantic egos, but they also both have a gigantic opportunity, and they're both really smart guys. I tend to think they'll figure it out.
Let me ask you, why did you choose minor league baseball? When you said that you were slowly...
Because baseball's always been my favorite sport.
Okay.
I mean, when I left HBO and I left HBO, I got a settlement when I left. I told the chairman of Time Warner to go fuck himself.
Jeez, what year is this?
Meeting. That was 2000 roughly.
Okay.
We had a falling out. I mean, I to be quite frank, I thought that I was in line to get a job, a big job, and no one told me it wasn't happening until I walked into a meeting and I was sort of blindsided.
Okay.
And then I didn't really want to be, even back then, I didn't want to be Mr. Boxing alone. Right. I loved the sports world. I love baseball. I wanted to do other things. And I really wanted that portfolio to be president of HBO Sports. And it started to become clear to me that probably was unlikely. And at that point, I wasn't, I probably caused my own exit, but I left, and I left with some money. Immediately, I bought into minor league baseball.
Wow.
Immediately.
Wow.
I bought a piece of a team in Altoona, Pennsylvania, that my friend who later bought the Texas Rangers owned that team in Altoona. And I learned how to run a minor league team by watching what he was doing. And then I bought a team in Connecticut, struggled mightily, moved to Richmond, and became one of the most successful teams in minor league baseball.
The team moved?
Yeah.
And why Richmond?
We moved to Richmond. Why Richmond? Great market.
Okay.
One of the biggest minor league markets. Baseball crazy town. Had the Braves for years and years.
Yeah.
Lost baseball, got it back. And then I hired the best management people in minor league baseball. Guys that understood that a minor league baseball game needs to be like a carnival.
Right.
Right. And, we went from last in the AA in attendance in our league to first. And
building a new stadium.
Building a $120 million stadium.
Wow.
Got a lot of money from a bond issue in Richmond to do that.
There it is. Look at that. CarMax Park.
CarMax Park. And you see the work
under construction.
Under construction right now.
And the second team is where?
In Montgomery, Alabama.
Yes.
The Montgomery Biscuits, the Tampa Rays AA team. So I run two pretty big businesses. And the team in Richmond, a particularly big business, because it's really one of the flagship minor league teams.
Do you think in 5 years, no more boxing? DiBella Entertainment done?
Man, I have a love for it. I would do commentary possibly. I did it for a year. I did it for a while I was a promoter.
It would be fantastic.
I think it was pretty good.
Probably hard to get a word in edgewise with the other crew.
No, I did. I was actually.
But I'm talking about like the promotional company, because you still have 20 fighters.
Yeah, I still do, and the fighters I have, I think they're probably better off with me than being free, because I feel an obligation to all of them. I don't breach my contracts. I keep my fighters fighting. I'll do a couple of shows a year to fulfill an obligation that someone has to fight X number of times, but I'm not going to be a promoter in the same way. For the most part, the days of promoting shows, like individual promoters doing it, are sort of coming to an end. And that's sort of why I was making the point about Eddie and Bob and Warren and Oscar now being exactly what they used to criticize me for. Like when they got their exclusive deal and I couldn't get directly to a network, even when I had the talent, and that pissed me off, I'd have to go through them. And then they would actually have the nerve to take shots that I was a middleman. Me, who was running more local shows, putting my money where my mouth was, not making money doing Broadway boxing, 144 shows in New York City, dominant promotion in New York City for 20 years, right? But they were downing me for being a middleman. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? That's what you are now. That's what you are now. And they have a chance, too. Every time there's a dominant promotion, someone is back there trying to claw their way up. Maybe they all work together better. Maybe they make changes to the organizations. Maybe they convince the organizations to merge. Maybe they create something that's a resistance to what's going to be done with the league, quote unquote, or the Netflix deal. I don't think that in the long run, Dana and Nick or Turkey care about coexisting with them. I think those guys want to build their own thing. If their own thing is successful enough, organically, they will be the dominant powerhouse in a near, not a legal, they're not going to be, I don't think that UFC is an illegal monopoly, right? I don't think they're breaking law, but they're sort of they're a monopoly from economic power. That's probably the aim in boxing too, to become dominant enough that you're a de facto monopoly, not a legal monopoly, a de facto monopoly. It's going to take some time. Nothing's going to be torn down overnight, but there is zero chance that if these guys are dedicated to this effort, and one person, like for example, if something happened to Turkey, is the partnership still there? Is the economic backing of Saudi still there? And by the way, by that time, does it matter? Because if it's not, and they've created the dominant promotion, why won't Nick and Dana just run with it? So I'm not. I think that none of the major 4 promotional companies now that have deals with DAZN will be what they are now in 5 years. None of the ratings organizations will be what they are now in 5 years. Probably the top promoters won't be what they are now in 3 years. Will they go away? Only if they want to. Look, I managed to survive, right, with no platform for a decade. And if I lost money that decade, it would have been out long ago, right? I don't think that they are going to. I think Eddie is too talented to be chased out totally if he wants to find a niche. But Eddie's not a niche guy, man. Eddie's a big guy, like a big picture guy. If Eddie thinks like, fuck, man, I can't beat these guys, I can't compete with these guys, his family are billionaires. His family was rich as fuck before Eddie ever got into this shit. He walked into his company. Do I expect Eddie to scrape and to struggle in 5 or 6 years, 10 years to be relevant? No. I think he'll retire and do something else. I mean, by the way, Matchroom has a whole portfolio of other sports, and Eddie's enough of a celebrity in the UK to do some television shit or whatever he wants to do. Do I think Top Rank has got issues? Top Rank's got a 94-year-old chairman, right? But Todd's not a dumb guy. They have really good people working there for them. Do I think they'll go out of business? I think they'll figure it out for a while. It's going to take a while.
Sure. It's
right?
not overnight.
And then when it all settles out and TKO, that whatever that promotion is, has all their TV and streaming deals, there will be another streaming service or another competing sports service or someone else that may want boxing property.
Yeah.
But it ain't going to be the way it is right now, right? And certainly, you asked me if I'm going to stay in boxing. I'm going to stay in boxing. I'm going to accept the changes that are coming. And I think I have a tremendous amount of knowledge of this industry. I think I have a tremendous eye for talent. I think I can help a fighter in the right situation, but much more likely to do so going forward as an advisor than as a promoter. I'm not, the days of me doing a monthly series or promoting 20 shows a year, they're done.
Fascinating. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Lou. Appreciate you coming in. Love your insight. Love that you.
I think that from a fan standpoint, look, you got more big. I mean, if you're not worried about it, if you're a fan, and I want to watch
business.
Boxing,
Yep.
Turkey made sure you got some good stuff in the last couple of years. I don't think that's going to disappear. And by the way, I think if he wants a particular fight and a guy's contracted to one of the other 4 guys, he'll pay the other 4 guys and make the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of spite here. I think it's going to be organically that the winds of change tear down the structure. The old paradigm of boxing has been for decades broken, and it's going to come down. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. And I'm open-minded as to what's coming. And I certainly have a lot of respect for the ability of Nick and Dana to run a business. They've already shown they can do it. And I think Turkey has shown me that he gets it. And what I mean by gets it is he gets the fact that to build it up, you must tear it down, right? And that's what's coming. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. 4 ratings organizations, never tenable. 7 champions in a particular weight class, world champions between interim and regular and this and that, untenable, right? You're never going to build a superstar that way, the right way. I mean, you build some superstars, but a lot of boxing champions have functioned in obscurity. And I think it's for a fan, it's going to be really interesting times for fans. And it's going to be a really interesting time for guys like you that are covering this shit.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And for me, look, I'm it's another thing. I'm not 44 anymore, right? I'm 60 plus. If I was 40 years old, I'd be thinking a little bit differently. Maybe I'd be calling meetings with some of the other. I'd be saying, finally, let's see what we can do.
Right.
Right. By the way, let them do what they're going to do. We can't compete with that.
Yeah.
But we could create something maybe that has legs, right? But I'm not interested in being a resistance anymore. I'm not interested in fighting windmills anymore. I tried to fight windmills in boxing for my entire 25 years as a promoter. But everybody from the ratings organizations and the guys running it, to the managers, to the promoters, to the fighters who became content with fighting once or twice a year, everyone was complicit with a broken system, including the writers, by the way, who would call a guy champion who just lost a fight 9 rounds to 3 and got robbed. But 3 days later, the guy that won, that got that decision, was the champion, and the other kid was fighting for a fraction of what he should have been fighting for, right? We all played into a broken system. If this is an opportunity to start fresh, I'm not going to be immediately adverse to it, and I'm not going to close, my mind to it. I as a fan, I'm more speaking to it now.
Lou, you're the man. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Appreciate the time very much. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up. Leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.